Hey everyone, welcome back to another Jazz Drum Q-Tip of the week. My name, of course, is Quincy Davis, and my question to you, yes, you in the back, is can a drum solo be interesting without chops? And by chops, I'm talking about speed, namely speed. Why speed? Because that's really what you see on the internet. You see it on YouTube, you see it on TikTok, even though I'm not on TikTok. You see it on Instagram. No matter where you look, you see incredible drummers playing with so much speed. And it's very impressive. But can you play an interesting solo and compelling and really keep an audience engaged without speed, right? Well, of course, if you're tuning in, if you know me, then you know you do not need speed. You know you do not need chops in order to play an interesting and great drum solo. And I'm just going to go through really quickly a few devices that I use that are not chop based that will help you create interesting drum solos without relying on speed that you may or may not have. But then I'm going to later in the video, actually the bulk of this video is going to be me actually walking the walk and attempting to keep your engagement for at least 7 or 8 minutes, 6 to 7, 8 minutes by doing exactly what I'm going to kind of talk about right now. So here we go. The first thing is repetition and variation. You got to have some repetition and variation. Those are these are all very common traits for great soloing, just regardless of the instrument. So repetition and variation. You're going to hear me using melody, themes, and motivic development, right? You're going to be hearing me use space. Space is so important, especially for drummers. It's easy to overlook that important device. You're going to hear me use more groove-based soloing. I might start out with a specific groove in a specific style and maybe move to a different groove at some point in the solo and different grooves. So that's always effective. I'm going to definitely change styles. So you're going to hear me start out a certain style, and then maybe I'll navigate and end up in a completely different style. A couple more dynamic contrast. That is huge for drums. It's easy to play just one dynamic, and that one dynamic usually is loud. We don't want to be that loud drummer. We want to make our louds or our fulls, playing at a full dynamic, we want to make those dynamics count by playing at quieter dynamics as well. And then one more thing I thought of is just thinking about telling a story. You want to think about telling a story from beginning to end. That if you look back at the whole solo, will it sound as though you told a story? And that's always my goal when I'm soloing. That's going to be my goal right now as I'm soloing. And also, I'll remind you, if you don't already know, I have super amounts of exercises and vocabulary and play-alongs, PDFs, all kinds of stuff. And I mention that because I'll probably be calling upon some phrases from a few of my phrase books. If you want to check those out, of course, you're welcome to do that. Link is down below. But without further ado, here's my non-choppy, slow, not necessarily slow. By the way, it doesn't mean that I'm not going to be using good technique. Use the technique that you have, okay, wherever you're at. But don't feel like you have to play fast and with a lot of chops to keep it interesting. So I'm going to be using technique, but I'm not going to be using flash or a lot of speed, okay? So without further ado, here's a drum solo just for you.